When HOA Karen stormed onto my porch, screaming about my illegal tool shed, I expected the usual threats, fines, and tantrums. What I didn't expect was her calling 911 on me, and definitely not that the dispatcher who answered was my wife. Listening to every lie, Karen spat, and ready to end it all. When I bought my home in Pinecrest Meadows, I wasn't looking for trouble. I wanted a quiet space, a large yard for my dog Ranger, and a workshop where I could build my custom furniture pieces. What I didn't know was that my new neighborhood came with a self-appointed queen, Karen Leffington, the HOA president with power trip tendencies and binoculars, practically glued to her face. It all started with my tool shed. It wasn't even an eyesore. Cedarwood, clean angles, matching the house stain. I built it myself. It took me 2 weekends and a lot of back pain, but I was proud of it. Karen was not. 3 days after I finished, she showed up on my lawn with a clipboard clutched like a weapon and the expression of someone who'd tasted a lemon and blamed the nearest human. "This structure is unauthorized," she said, tapping her clipboard like it gave her authority. "It's a shed," I replied. "It violates HOA aesthetics. It matches the house. It was not approved." "It didn't need approval," I reminded her, pointing at the rules printed from the HOA website. "Anything under 120 square feet doesn't require. I am the HOA," she snapped. That told me everything about her. I stayed calm. I'd dealt with worse. My job as a paramedic had thickened my skin, and nothing compared to the screams I heard on 911 calls. The grief, the chaos. Karen was just noise. Still, she wasn't finished. That afternoon, she took pictures. That evening, she took measurements. The next morning, I found a warning notice taped to my front door like a scarlet letter. But the real explosion came 2 days later. I was repairing the shed roof, one loose shingle, when Karen marched into my backyard without knocking, without calling, without any concept of boundaries. "You're ignoring official HOA commands," she announced. "That wasn't official." I reminded her. "That was a handwritten note taped with Christmas wrapping tape." She gasped dramatically, as if I'd slapped her. "You are threatening me." I blinked. I was holding a hammer, sure, but not swinging it. Not even close. She flipped open her phone. That's when I realized what she was doing. She already had 911 dialed. The moment she hit call, I felt a twist of dread, because I knew exactly how this would go. She'd lie, exaggerate, probably claim I was armed or violent, and cops didn't play around with calls like that. "Hello, 900, I want to report a dangerous man threatening me with a weapon," she shrieked. I froze. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even scared. I was disappointed because I knew something she didn't know, something she was about to learn the hard way. The dispatcher who picked up, the one whose voice came through Karen's speaker, was my wife, Emily. Veteran dispatcher, calm, under pressure, sharp as a scalpel, and absolutely allergic to petty nonsense. 911, what's your emergency? Emily said, her voice cool and level. Karen turned her phone so the whole backyard could hear. This man is threatening me with a hammer. I'm the HOA president and he's attacking me. Is the man approaching you? Emily asked. No, but he could. He's thinking about it. Is he yelling? No, but he might. He's being hostile. Is he making threats? He questioned my authority. I fought hard not to laugh. Emily paused. What is your exact location? I'm at 441 Lakeview. That is my husband's house, Emily said calmly. Karen froze mid. I waved. Emily continued, her tone still professional, but with an unmistakable edge. Ma'am, you have just confessed to entering private property without permission and making a false police report. Both are crimes. Karen's eyes went wide. Emily didn't give her room to breathe. I am dispatching officers to your location, she said. Please remain where you are. Karen's face drained of color like she'd been unplugged. I almost felt bad for her. 10 minutes later, 2 squad cars rolled up in front of my house, lights flashing. The neighbors peeked through blinds. Karen stood stiff as a lamppost, wringing her hands like she was preparing for a sermon in which she played both saint and victim. Officers Daniels and Ruiz stepped into the yard. Sir. Daniels nodded at me. Officers, I said back. Karen bolted toward them. Thank God you're here. He's dangerous. He refused my HOA notice. And he had a hammer, and he was ma'am. Ruiz cut her off. We heard the call recording. Karen froze. The dispatcher. He looked at me. Your wife? I nodded. Ruiz sighed. Yes, she sent us the full recording. And the part before you realized who she was. Karen gulped. Daniels stepped forward. Ma'am, you entered private property without permission. That's trespassing. I was conducting an inspection. HOA does not override private property rights, he corrected. And you reported an armed threat that did not exist. That was a misunderstanding. No, Daniels said. It was a crime. Karen looked like she was going to melt into the grass. I leaned against my shed, arms crossed, staying calm. I didn't want her arrested. I just wanted her gone. Ruiz looked at me. Do you want to press charges for trespassing? Karen whipped toward me with a face that silently screamed, please don't. I shook my head. No, I just want her to leave me alone. You'd think that would be enough. But no. Karen's pride couldn't let her walk away quietly. She pointed at me, trembling. He's violating HOA rules. This shed is illegal. He's dangerous. Daniels held up the printed HOA rule sheet I'd given him. You're wrong on all counts, Karen sputtered. Then she did the one thing that sealed her fate. She grabbed the clipboard from her purse, marched to my shed, and tried to rip off one of the cedar panels. See? Look, it's shoddy. It's illegal. I stepped forward. Ma'am, don't touch my property. She ignored me. Daniels did not. He grabbed her wrist. That's vandalism. You're done. And that's how Karen ended up being escorted, not arrested, but very close. Back to her house while the officers filed an incident report, but the story didn't end there. Oh, no. Because Emily, my wife, wasn't finished with her either. That night, she filed a formal complaint with the HOA Oversight Board, something most homeowners didn't even know existed. And Karen thought she could fight it, which brings us to the finale. A week later, I got the letter, not from Karen. From the state HOA Regulatory Board, stamped in blue ink. Inside, a complaint summary, an investigation notice, a request for my statement. And at the bottom, respondent, Karen Leffington, HOA President, Pinecrest Meadows. She had no idea. When the investigator arrived, a calm man named Stuart, he interviewed me first. I gave him everything. Karen's warnings, the 911 call transcript, thanks. Emily, the false report, the trespassing, the attempted vandalism. Stuart listened, took notes, and nodded slowly. Mr. Dalton, he said, closing his binder, this is classic HOA overreach and abuse of authority. We take these cases seriously. Across the street, Karen watched from behind her curtains like a terrified owl. When Stuart left my house, he walked straight to hers. She opened the door before he knocked, clearly trying to spin her version, but he stepped inside, closed the door, and the argument that followed could be heard. Halfway down the block, neighbors later told me they'd never seen Karen so pale. 3 weeks passed. Then the verdict arrived, a blue envelope for me. A red one for Karen. Mine said, investigation complete. Thank you for your cooperation. Hers said, effective immediately. You are removed from your position as HOA president. You are prohibited from holding any HOA authority for 5 years. You are fined $7,500 for false reporting, unauthorized inspections, and trespassing. When she read it, she screamed so loudly, Ranger howled back. The board replaced her with a calm, reasonable new president named Helen, who actually cared about people. The neighborhood breathed again. A week after Karen's removal, she approached me cautiously while I watered the lawn. She wasn't holding a clipboard. Her hair wasn't in its usual angry bun. She looked human. I wanted to say, I'm sorry, she said quietly. That shocked me more than the 911 call. I let the authority get to me, and I overreacted. I shouldn't have called 911 like that. I nodded. Thank you. I appreciate it. Then she added, almost in a whisper, and please don't tell your wife I tried to blame her in the appeal letter. I blinked. You what? She blushed. It didn't work. I laughed. For the first time, so did she. And that was the end of the Great Shed War. Karen keeps her distance now. She walks her dog past my house and waves stiffly. No more trespassing. No more fake reports. No more power trips. As for me, I kept the shed, built a second one, and installed a little sign on the front door that still makes my wife laugh. Warning, 911 dispatcher monitors this property, and yes, Karen reads it every time.